Hello students and welcome to the lecture. So students, as we know that we have started the discussion over the modern India, okay, in the previous lecture, okay, and we have discussed the several topics that are belong to the modern India, all right. So now, basically in this lecture, we are going to continue it further and we will see these topics in this particular lecture, like starting with the revolt of 1857. Thereafter, the socio-religious reform movements, okay, and then the chief national activities, okay. So this is going to be the topics that we are going to discuss over here, all right. So basically, before starting this lecture, there is a small disclaimer, all right, and the disclaimer goes like, the images used in a slide deck are for educational purposes only. We respect the intellectual property rights of the original creators and the owners of these images. If you are the owner of any of the images used in this deck and have any concerns or issues, please contact us at sathee@iitk.ac.in and we shall remove the images. Alright. So now let's move towards the topics that we have scheduled for discussion. So here you can see the revolt of 1857. Okay. If we particularly talking about this thing, then let me tell you very much interesting fact that this revolt is very important topic whenever you plan for competitive exams and you have to study about the modern India. Okay. And why this topic becomes that much of important? Because the revolt of 1857 was the first time when the Britishers got a resistance from the Indians. Okay. But it does not mean that before this revolt, no one revolted against the Britishers. There were many battles fought against them. And two of the famous battles were Battle of Plassey and the Battle of Buxar, 1757, and then the 1764. The two famous battles were there. But if you look at those battles, what you would find out that basically those battles were against the Britishers from the royal patronage. Okay. It means the royals were against the Britishers. But in the first time, in the revolt of 1857, the normal people, or you can say the general masses of India, were against the Britishers and revolted against them. And apart from this, there is another important fact, which is that basically that revolt is considered as the first war of independence from the Indian historian sides, and the British historians remember this revolt as the Sepoy Mutiny. Okay, so that differences between these two major historian groups also makes this topic very important. Okay, so if we talk about the revolt of 1857, okay, so that was a product of the character and the policies of the British colonial rule. Okay, and the causes of revolt emerged from the aspects like the socio-cultural, economic, and the political. Okay, so we can say that these aspects were the areas where the British colonial rule implemented the several policies that having their exploitative character. Okay, and because of this, that changed the minds of the people against the Britishers, and finally we have the revolt of 1857. The causes for the revolt including the doctrine of lapse, okay, refusal of pension to Nana Sahib, annexation of some states through the policy of subsidiary alliance. So if we talk about them, then what do you mean by the doctrine of lapse? Basically, the Britishers came with the policy and they said if someone is the ruler and did not have the natural heir, it means that the person who is going to be the next ruler should be the son of the ruler. If the person has been adopted or nominated but does not holding any blood relation with the ruler, then the person will not be considered as a natural heir and will not be recognized by the Britishers. In that case, that particular rule or that particular kingdom would be taken over by the Britishers. Okay. Following this tectonic of lapse, basically the Britishers had acquired the several centers like the Nagpur, Sambalpur, Jaitapur, Satara, Jhansi and all. Okay. After this, pension refusal to the Nana Sahib. Okay. Nana Sahib was a significant Maratha leader. Okay. And the Britishers were entitled to pay him the pensions because of his occupied land. But later on, the Britishers refused to pay this. And thereafter, the policy of subsidiary alliance. Okay. We had discussed about it in the previous lecture. Okay. So now I hope that you have revised it and you are well aware about it. Okay. So these areas, basically the main one that transformed the royals against the Britishers. Okay. And socio-cultural, economic and politicals basically transformed the masses against the Britishers. If we talk about the economic grievances, so basically the Britishers having aim of increasing the revenue. So that's why they introduced a heavy taxation. There are various policies that were previously available for the Indians that were erected by the Britishers. Okay. And in India, traditional handicrafts was the one of the major industry. Okay. That was the source of livelihood for many. But the Britishers started dumping their machine-made goods that were built in the England into the Indian market. Because of this, the traditional handicraft market of India got destroyed. Thereafter, discriminatory tariff policies against the Indian products. Like if we talk about it, so basically the Indian products were heavily demanded in the international market before the arrival of the Britishers. To discourage this demand, the Britishers imposed the heavy tariff duties on the Indian products that were sending outside. That made the product costlier. Okay. And because of this, basically, the Indian products got low demand. Thereafter, the Indian soldiers were also paid low salaries. Okay. They could not rise above the rank of Subedar and were racially insulted. It means that those Indians that were serving with the Britishers in their army, first of all, in comparison with the European counterparts, their salaries were low. Even the promotion could not be more than the rank of Subedar. And thereafter, the officers also discriminated with them, also insulted them on the basis of racial. After this, the main cause is considered as an Enfield rifle. Okay. So during this time, the British company Enfield Rifles introduced their rifle that had the cartridge, and that cartridge was greased with the animal fat, means the cow and the pig. Okay. And that was against the religion of Hindus and the Muslims respectively. Okay. So that's why the soldiers got very much angry by having that gun. Thereafter, the British social reforms like allowing the widow remarriage, abolition of sati pratha or the sati, allowing education for girls, and arrival of Christian machineries also led to the revolt by the Orthodox Hindus or the Indians because they had a view on this. They said that Britishers were trying to destroy their culture. So all these things that we have highlighted here and we have read about them, these things combinedly made it difficult for the Britishers to survive on their own and eventually attracted the revolt against them. Okay. So if we move further in the same, now we have the center of the revolt and the leaders. So Delhi was one of the major center. Here you can see in this map. Leaders were Bahadur Shah II and Bakht Khan. Banaras. Okay, this is Banaras. Leader was Liaquat Ali. Kanpur. Okay. This is Kanpur. You can see over here. Leaders were Nana Sahib, Tatya Tope, Azimullah Khan. After this, Lucknow. This is Lucknow. You can see. Leader was Begum Hazrat Mahal. She was a Begum of Awadh. Jhansi. Okay. This is Jhansi. Leader was Rani Lakshmi Bai. Bareilly. Okay. Leader was Khan Bahadur Khan. Here you can see Bareilly. Awadh. Leader was Veer Kunwar Singh. Here you can see the Awadh. Alright. These were the revolted areas and these were the leader of these areas for the revolt. Okay. The causes of failure of revolt include the first of all lack of efficient leadership. Thereafter, some Indian rulers were not supporting the revolt and were on the British side. Thereafter, all the leaders and all the participants that were revolting against the Britishers, they all had a different motives. That's why there was a lack of the common motive for participating in the revolt. And Britishers were more advancedly equipped in comparison with the Indian rebels. So that's why that helped to crush the revolt easily. After this, now we have the socio-religious movements. Okay. In this, the first we have the Brahmo Samaj, founded by Raja Ram Mohan Roy. Idea was propagated the monotheism, opposed sacrifices, idolatry, superstition, and sati. Thereafter, the Pratna Samaj, founder was Atmaram Pandurang. Idea was monotheism, upliftment of women, abolition of caste discrimination. Thereafter, Arya Samaj, founder was Dayanand Saraswati, gave the slogan "Go back to Vedas," denounced rights, idolatry, Brahmin supremacy, etc. Thereafter, the Deccan Education Society, co-founded by M.G. Ranade, G.G. Agarkar, V.G. Chiplinkar. Idea was to contribute to education and culture in the Western India. Established Ferguson College at Pune during 1885. Thereafter, Ramakrishna Mission, founder was Vivekanand. To revive the Hinduism, was against the caste restrictions, superstitions in Hinduism, and overhaul of education system. The Theosophical Society, founded by Madam H.P. Blavatsky and Colonel H.S. Olcott, drew inspiration from the Upanishad, philosophy of Vedanta, and transmigration of souls. Servants of Indian Society, founded by Gopal Krishna Gokhale, against the famine relief and improving the tribal conditions in a particular area. Okay. So here we have finished the revolt of 1857 and socio-religious reform movements. Now, what we are going to see, that we are going to see the chief national activities that are the part of modern India and are important from the examination point of view. So the activities that we are going to see, these activities are the important topics from the examination point of view. So please be attentive this time. So the first is the formation of Indian National Congress, INC. Okay. Indian National Congress, you have heard this name already. Okay. This political party still exists in India with the same name. Okay. So if we talk about this, so the INC was formed when the 72 delegates from all the presidencies and the provinces of India. Okay. Presidencies, there were 3 presidencies during the British time. The Bombay Presidency, Bengal Presidency, and the Madras Presidency. Okay. And the rest of the provinces of India, they all met in Bombay in December 1885. Okay. There was a person known as Alan Octavian Hume, A.O. Hume also. Okay. He was the retired British official in India, called as the founder father of the Congress Party. Okay. And he played a role in the formation of the INC. A.O. Hume. He established contact with some of the most important Indian leaders all over the country on that time, because here we have seen 72 delegates were there. So now you can see that he had done a great job in connecting all these and received their cooperation in forming the Congress Party as a political platform to talk with the Britishers jointly. The first session of the Indian National Congress was held on 8 December 1885 at Tejpal Sanskrit Pathshala, Bombay. And who was the president of that time? W.C. Banerjee. W.C. Banerjee was the president of that particular Congress meeting. And that's how the Congress Party got established. After this, now we have the partition of Bengal. Okay. So basically, this map you are seeing over here. Okay. So this portion that you are seeing, this one and this one. So this portion is now known as the West Bengal. It is a state of India. This portion is known as the Bangladesh. It is a separate country. Okay. So basically, if we talk about it, so during the 1905, this entire area was existing in India. Okay. Known as the Bengal. All right. Then what happened? Lord Curzon was the viceroy of that time. And on 16th October 1905, he passed a royal proclamation reducing the old province of Bengal in size by creating the East Bengal and Assam out of rest of the Bengal. Okay. So basically what happened, like this entire area was Bengal, as I have told you. So here you can see the Bengal, Eastern Bengal and Assam. Okay. So he divided this and this. Okay. And this is famously known as the partition of Bengal. Okay. The reason given by him was that because of the administrative convenience, they are dividing it. But the Indians were against these divisions because they said the Eastern Bengal having the Muslim majority and the Bengal having the Hindu majority, and to split both these major communities, the Britishers were doing this. Okay. So now we have the Swadeshi movement. This movement is having its origin in the anti-partition movement of Bengal. It means that the Indians launched the Swadeshi movement against the Britishers. Okay. And the three famous leaders of this movement were Lal Bal Pal, and with them was Aurobindo Ghosh, Lal Bahadur Shastri, Bal Gangadhar Tilak, and Bipin Chandra Pal. Okay. So Lal Bal Pal, these were the three leaders along with the Aurobindo Ghosh. The Indian National Congress took the Swadeshi call first at the Banaras session, okay, in 1905, and presided over by the G.K. Gokhale. Okay. G.K. Gokhale was the president of that particular session. After this, in the next year, in 1906, the Muslim League formed. Okay. So it was set up in 1906 by Aga Khan, Nawab Salimullah of Dhaka, and Nawab Mohsin ul Mulk. Okay. These three were the main persons who laid down the foundation of Muslim League, and that foundation took place at Dhaka. Dhaka is the capital of Bangladesh nowadays. And at that time, that was the part of Eastern Bengal. The League supported the partition of Bengal. It means the Congress was against the partition, but the Muslim League was in favor of the partition. And accordingly, they were also against the Swadeshi movement that was launched in response of Bengal partition. They demanded the special safeguards to the Muslim community and separate electorate for Muslims also. This led to the communal differences between the Hindus and the Muslims. Okay. And that was highly desirable by the Britishers. After this, now we have the demand for Swaraj. Swaraj means the self-rule. Okay. In the following sessions, demand for Swaraj arose. First, the INC, Indian National Congress, under the leadership of Dadabhai Naoroji, adopted the Swaraj self-government as the goal of Indian people. It means that the Britishers should not rule us and we must have our own government. Remember, Dadabhai Naoroji is famously known as the Grand Old Man of India. Okay. Thereafter, the Indian National Congress got split into the two groups later on. The extremist group, that was the first group, and then the moderate groups, that was the second group. Okay. Because these groups were debating over the Swadeshi movement. The extremists saying that they should employ more stringent movements to counter the Britishers. But the moderates said that the non-violence and the less stringent way would be the sufficient way to counter the Britishers. Okay. Extremists were led by the Lal Bal Pal and moderates were led by the G.K. Gokhale. Our trust was founded by Mohandas Karamchand Gandhi, got named as Navjeevan Trust with the idea of attaining the third Swaraj. First two here and third Swaraj was basically when Navjeevan Trust was established by Mahatma Gandhi or Mohandas Karamchand Gandhi, you can call it. Thereafter, the Morley Minto reforms. Okay. So, if we talk about this Morley Minto reforms, so remember, the Morley was the Secretary of State of India on that time, and Minto was the Viceroy of India on that time. Okay. And they both combinedly, you can say, combinedly brought this concept. So that's why it is known as the Morley Minto reform. So what was in that concept? The reforms envisage a separate electorate for Muslims beside the other constitutional measures. Okay. It means that this reform said that the Muslim must have their own electorate and they could not be included into the common electorate. Lord Minto came to be known as the father of communal electorate. Okay. Thereafter, the Ghadar party. So basically, it was formed by Lala Hardayal, Taraknath Das, Sohan Singh Bakhna. Okay. These three were the founding fathers of the Ghadar party, and the headquarters was at San Francisco, USA. Its name was taken from a weekly paper called Ghadar, which had been started on 1st November 1930 to commemorate the revolt of 1857. Okay. Thereafter, now we have the Home Rule movement, started by the B.G. Tilak on April 1916 at Pune and Annie Besant, and thereafter as Subramanya Iyer at Adyar near Madras. Date was September 1916. Okay. So you can say B.G. Tilak started it at Pune 1916 April. Annie Besant and S. Subramanya Iyer started it at Adyar near Madras on September 1916. Objective was to establish the self-government for India in the British Empire. Okay. Tilak supported the movement and joined Annie Besant, and he raised the slogan, the famous slogan that is, Swaraj is my birthright and I shall have it. Okay. So remember who gave this slogan? Bal Gangadhar Tilak. After this comes the Lucknow Pact. So Lucknow Pact was signed between the Indian National Congress and the Muslim League. Okay. On that time, the Britain and Turkey was at war. And because the Turkey was holding a significant position in the Muslim world, so the British arrogance against the Turkish led to the anti-British feelings amongst the Muslims. And that's why the INC and the Muslim League, both organizations jointly demanded the dominant status for the country so that they could have their self-government. After this, now we have the August Declaration. After the Lucknow Pact, the British policy was announced, which aimed at increasing the association of Indians in every branch of the administration for progressive realization of responsible government in India as an integral part of the British Empire. Okay. And this declaration or this announcement is famously known as the August Declaration. Okay. The Montagu-Cholesford Reward or Act of 1919 was also based on this declaration as it allows Indians to participate in various administrative works. Thereafter comes the Rowlatt Act. So this act gave unbridled powers to the government to arrest and imprison suspects without trial. It means that if the British government had any suspect or anyone, then the British government could directly hold him and not required to go to the court and prove him guilty. This law enabled the government to suspend the right of habeas corpus, which is used against the arrest by the government. And because of this, Rowlatt Satyagraha was started against that. And this was the first countrywide agitation by the Gandhiji. Thereafter, the Jallianwala Massacre. People were aggregated over the arrest of Dr. Kichlu and Dr. Satyapal on 10th April 1990. Okay. Then, many people were peacefully assembled at the Jallianwala Bagh, Amritsar, where General O'Dwyer fired at people who assembled in the Jallianwala Bagh, Amritsar, and the Hunter Commission was appointed to inquire into it for this massacre. In response of this, the Rabindranath Tagore returned his knighthood in protest, and Sardar Udham Singh went to England and killed General Dyer in the Caxton Hall, London, to get the revenge of it. Thereafter comes the Khilafat movement, agitated by the treatment done with the Turkish by the British in the treaty that followed the First World War. Thereafter, in India, Muhammad Ali and Shaukat Ali started this movement, and it was jointly led by the Khilafat leaders and the Congress. Non-cooperation movement. The Congress passed the resolution in its Calcutta session during the September 1920. It was the first mass-based political movement under Gandhiji, which included resignation from the nominated offices and posts in the local bodies. Okay. Many refused to attend the government functions, and boycott of the British courts by the lawyers was the common thing. It also included refusal of general public to offer themselves for military and other government jobs, and completely a boycott of the foreign goods. Chauri Chaur incident, if we talk about it, the Congress session at Allahabad in December 1920, one decided to launch a civil disobedience movement. Okay. And Gandhi was appointed as a leader. But before it could be launched, a mob of people at Chauri Chaura, that was near Gorakhpur, clashed with the police and burnt 22 policemen alive on 5th February 1922. And this compelled Gandhiji to withdraw the non-cooperation movement on 12th February 1922. Swaraj Party, founded by Motilal Nehru, C.R. Das and Sikhelkar. Okay. Basically, they were against the withdrawal of the movement by the Gandhiji, and they demanded that the nationalists should end the boycott of Legislative Council, enter them, expose them, and that's how change the policies. Simon Commission, constituted by Sir John Simon to review the political situation in India so that they could introduce the further reform and extension of the parliamentary democracy. But the Indian leaders were opposing the commission. Why? Because the commission was to examine about India, but no Indian was in it. So basically, that's why that type of slogans were on road. Simon, go back. The government used a brutal repression, and at Lahore, Lala Lajpat Rai, who was the famous leader of Punjab, was similarly beaten in lathi charge, and later he got died. Thereafter, the Nehru Report. After boycotting the Simon Commission, all political parties constituted a committee under the chairmanship of Motilal Nehru and the Tej Bahadur Sapru, so that they could evolve and determine the principle for the Constitution of India, and that could be forwarded in front of Britishers. But This report got failed later. Lahore Session 1929. 19 December 1929, under the presidency of J.L. Nehru or Jawaharlal Nehru, the International Congress at Lahore Session declared the complete independence and Poon Swaraj as the ultimate goal. Okay, the tricolor flag adopted on this date and basically unfurled on 26 January 1930, and that was fixed as an first Independence Day. Okay, later on, we on the same date in 1950 implemented the constitution. That's why this day is always celebrated as a Republic Day of India. Dandi March. It is also called as Salt Satyagraha. So basically, Gandhiji started his march from Sabarmati Ashram on 12th March 1930 for the small village called Dandi to break the salt law that was imposed by the Britishers, prohibiting anyone to process, manufacture, and store the salt. Gandhiji was against this because the salt was naturally available and the monopoly of Britishers on this basically affecting the Indians. He picked a handful of salt and inaugurated the civil disobedience movement, which means that do not follow the British instructions and the orders. Okay, that was a countrywide mass participation by women. Okay, and basically even the forces of Britishers, like the Garhwal soldiers, they refused to fire on people at Peshawar because the people were not doing the protest with violent ways. First Roundtable Conference, arranged between the British and Indians, okay, held on 12th November 1930 in London to discuss the Simon Commission report. Hindu Mahasabha and Muslim League participated in it, but the conference failed due to the absence of the Indian National Congress. The Indian National Congress did not participate. Gandhi-Irwin Pact. The government of Britishers, represented by the Lord Irwin, and the Indian National Congress, led by the Gandhiji, signed a pact on 5th March 1931. In this, the Indian National Congress called off the civil disobedience movement and agreed to join the Roundtable Conference. Okay. In response of this, the government allowed the villagers on the coast to make salt for consumption and released the political prisoners who got arrested during the civil disobedience movement. The Karachi session of 1931 endorsed the Gandhi-Irwin Pact. After this comes the Second Roundtable Conference. Gandhiji represented the INC and went to London to meet the British Prime Minister Ramsay MacDonald. Conference got failed as Gandhiji could not agree with the British PM on his policy of giving communal representation and refusal of British government on the basic Indian demand for freedom. Thereafter, later on, the Pune Pact and Gandhi-Ambedkar Pact was signed against the communal representation, and the idea of separate electorate for the depressed class was abandoned. But the seats got reserved for them in the provincial legislature, okay, and the number of these seats were increased further. Thus, the Pune Pact agreed upon a joint electorate for upper and lower caste. Pune Pact and Gandhi-Ambedkar Pact, the idea of separate electorate for the depressed class was abandoned, okay, and the things got normalized. Thereafter, the demand for Pakistan. In 1930, Iqbal suggested that the North-West provisions, these areas were now occupied by the China and the Pakistan, but on that time, these all were in India. Okay. So basically, he suggested that the Northwest provisions and the Kashmir part, this part, should be the Muslim state within its federation. December 1943, the Karachi session of Muslim League adopted the slogan "Divide and Quiet," and Chaudhry Rahmat Ali gave the term Pakistan in 1933. After this, the August offer declared by the Britishers, dominant status for India in the unspecified future, a post-war body to enact the Constitution of India, expand the Governor General's Executive Council to give full weightage to minority opinion. Okay. After this, the Cripps mission came to India. The British government, with a view to get cooperation from Indians in the Second World War, sent Sir Stafford Cripps to settle terms with Indian leaders. He offered the dominant status to be granted after war, but Congress rejected it, and Gandhiji termed it as the forced it check on a crumbling bank. After this, the revolt of 1942 and the Quit India movement. This is also called as Wardha Proposal, a leaderless revolt. Okay. This was launched on 8 August 1942, Bombay, and Gandhi ji gave a famous slogan, do or die. On 1st August, the Congress was banned and its important leaders were arrested. Gandhi ji was kept at Aga Khan Palace, Pune. The people became violent. The movement was, however, crushed by the government later on. Thereafter, the Indian National Army. Subhash Chandra Bose escaped to Berlin in 1941, set up the Indian League there. July 1943, he joined the Indian National Army at Singapore, and Raj Bihari Bose handed over the leadership to him. The INA had 3 fighting brigades named after Gandhi, Azad, and Nehru. Rani of Jhansi Brigade was an exclusive women force, and INA had its headquarters at Rangoon and Singapore. Okay. So students, basically in this lecture, we have done with the modern history. Okay. Revise the facts and figures at all we have discussed in this lecture. Okay. And be ready for the next lecture. With this note, let's end this lecture and thank you.